It's time for Uncancelled, where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Tonight, Liddle, associate editor of The Spectator, is giving his unfiltered and unmagnanimous verdict on tonight's England victory, plus the woke backlash to one of the most adorable pieces of patriotism I've seen in a long time. Rod, they did it. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. It's wonderful, and I'm very, very happy. And one question for you. What England manager has the greatest success record of any England manager? Do you know who that is?
No. Tell me.
Sam Allardyce.
Oh, yes, 100%.
100%. And a great bloke, a great manager, an underestimated manager, and a great servant to Millwall, which is important.
Yeah, well, no one can take that away from him, although, Rod, it looks like an inspired decision now, though, doesn't it, to give Gareth Southgate the reins, to then install him permanently and say, you've got the World Cup to build your young team, and let's get ready to go and win the Euros in what was going to be 2020, now 2021.
Not sure. I think Gareth Southgate has at his disposal the best crop of English players that we've seen for 30 to 40 years. Raheem Sterling, I think, is probably the best player in the tournament, and he's a magnificent footballer. Harry Kane, sought after by every major club in Europe. We have a really, really good team. I thought we were too cautious again tonight. We asked Denmark to come and attack us, and I think there was a problem. But it's hard to argue. He's got us through to a final. No one's done that since Sir Alf Ramsey in 1966. So I'm very, very grateful to him. But I'm not quite as convinced as you are that we got it all right.
Do you think we can do it on Sunday?
Yeah, I do. Largely because I think Italy plays to Gareth Southgate's strengths, in that what we do need to do against Italy is be patient, to build up, to have a strong defence, and not to take risks. That is certainly Gareth Southgate's template for playing football. So, yes, I think there's a possibility we could. I'd put it roughly 45-55 against, but not much in it.
The country's going to go crazy these next few days.
Well, is it? Yeah, I mean, I think most of the country is. This is what I wanted to talk to you about really tonight. We're all going crazy, and we're very happy. And we're cheering the England team while we're cheering Gareth on. And yet there's this small percentage of people in this country who loathe the fact that England is doing well. This is in England. I don't mean in Ireland, Scotland or Wales. That's fair enough. I mean here. And so you had the case of this school in Fleetwood in Lancashire, yes, which put up a beautiful film of its children singing happily the Vindaloo song and various other football songs. And what happened as a consequence? A couple of parents, and this has been picked up by all the media, said, we don't like that sea of white faces. We think this is hooliganism. While we're cheering England, there are plenty of people in this country who are desperate that England doesn't succeed, and that if England does succeed, it's somehow racist. I mean, tell that to Raheem Sterling, or Bukayo Saka, But that we do have this problem in this country, that there are some people who loathe everything about our country.
No, I think you're right. I adored the video. I thought it was the nicest thing I've seen all week. It was patriotic. It was beautiful. Let's have a little look, Rod, and then we'll talk more about it on the back. I mean, Rod, how on earth can you talk about hooliganism? It's just a lovely group of kids embracing the St. George's flag.
But it's not just that. It is beautiful and it's lovely to see those kids having fun. But it's also about, there are very few things in this country which bring us all together as a nation.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. 25 million people will have been watching tonight. And there were, of course, 50,000 people in Wembley. This is one of the things which brings us together. And yet there are still some people who loathe England so much, such as some of the parents from that school in Fleetwood. The moron who said she felt affronted by the sea of white faces. The idiot who said he thought it was hooliganism. Who just loathes every single reflection of how we support our country, and it's a real problem.
No, it really is, and I saw people criticising the fact that the newspapers had decided to put the England flag on the front pages today as well. And what's so strange to me, Rod, we were speaking about this earlier in the show. No one says that about the Scottish flag or the Welsh flag. That patriotism is embraced.
Or indeed the Danish flag. No, it's clear. And it's basically, Dan, a class problem. And we saw it at the election in 2017 and before, when the Labour Party, when some people in the Labour Party, such as Emily Thornberry, objected and were scathing about seeing an England flag in a driveway. There is this cachet of people in this country. It's not terribly large. I will put it at about 10 to 12%, who just loathe everything about the country. And they cannot be gainsaid. There is nothing you can do to win them over. This is harmless patriotism. We're supporting a football team. It's not about the empire. It's not about colonialism. It's not about imperialism. It's not about anything other than football and a sense in having a bit of pride about your country and supporting the people who come from your country, such as Raheem Sterling, such as Marcus Rashford and Calvin Phillips, players who are from various different backgrounds, brought together wonderfully to play football. And these people still carp about it. They hate it. They want there to be more divisions in the country. They want there to be more anxiety about our past and worries about what we stand for. Whereas today what we stand for is a multicultural football team which has just won a great match and got into a final for the first time in 55 years.
Rod, there is a political angle to this tonight, though. The government is going to come under pressure from some quarters, certainly from this quarter, to say, pack the stadium on final day, get the 90,000 into Wembley. There's also going to be huge pressure from the hospitality industry for there to be an amnesty on these ridiculous COVID restrictions, which mean that people can pack into private residences or pack in outside, but are banned from standing up in a pub or from singing in a pub. And this is going to be potentially the biggest day of business for the people in the hospitality industry for the past decade, certainly for the past 2 years. Do you think the government should recognise that Sunday is going to be a very special day for England and for 24 hours loosen the rules, given that Freedom Day is so close anyway?
Yes, I do. And I think we need to bring Freedom Day forward. I'm speaking to you from the northeast of England, from Teesside, which is not the most affluent of areas. And we depend up here, at least partly, upon our hospitality industry. And so much of it has been lost over the last year and a half. People finding it terribly hard to make a living. So many restaurants and pubs have closed down. We need to get real. We need to be able to look at COVID and say, yes, we understand that we're not going to get rid of COVID, but we need to live with it. We need to minimise the danger that there is to elderly people and to the vulnerable, but we need to get on with this. And I think that on Sunday, a mass crowd of 90,000 people, it will cause a small spike, I suspect. But I think we have to understand that there are going to be many more spikes. And I think we have to live with this thing.
Indeed, Rob. Look, I want to bring in our panel, all England supporters: Isabel Webster, Calvin Robinson, Dawn Neeson. Dawn, do you have a comment or a question for Rod?
I just want to go back to that school video. I've watched that several times now, and it always makes me cry. I loved it. It was brilliant, and I agree 100% with Rod on that. How can you cancel or try to cancel a group of 5-year-olds having fun? They're face painted, dancing. It was just so uplifting. It was brilliant. So I just want to agree with him and say it's so bang on the money with that. The people that had to go at those little kids should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm so glad that the school stood up for themselves and reposted the video and didn't allow their pupils to be cancelled.
Such horrible, middle-class, butter-clenched people. That's who it was. This is a class issue in the end. And you saw it with Labour, that they cannot bear it when the working class, when the normal people of this country come together and cheer for something. I mean, Dawn's absolutely right.
Calvin Robinson.
Good evening, Rod. You and I have spoken at great length about this issue, but, these elites sneering at the proletariat, sneering at the patriots, and kind of calling it all xenophobia and racism, and then at the same time being racist, saying, this is a sea of white faces. Do you think this is actually projection on their part?
Yes, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Calvin, a great writer, a bloke I really admire, absolutely right on this. There is something dark at the heart of this loathing of England and this carping and this eternal obsession with race. It's kind of simultaneously self-flagellatory, but also, I think, is in itself inherently racist. These are people who see black people and white people as being essentially different. And we're not really, Calvin, are we?
Not at all. You're absolutely spot on. The issue is down to them. The issue isn't us, and they're pushing their own issues onto us. It's quite terrible, actually. But, yes, thank you for that, Rod.
Isabel Webster.
Do you know, Rod, I just wanted to get your take on the anthems at the beginning of the match this evening. I don't know if you saw that there was some booing of Denmark. And for me, I don't think that there's any justification for that in any setting, certainly not sportsmanlike. And I don't want to be a downer on England because we just had this amazing win and I'm so chuffed. But I can't think of another situation where that would happen of another country. So what's your take on that? I mean, do you think that gives fuel perhaps to some of the sneering that there is?
Who's your team?
What, football team?
Who's your football team?
Oh, I'm not a big football follower. I'd probably say Chelsea because my kids were born opposite them.
I'm sorry. That's the point. What we do, and I was actually distressed during this England performance against Denmark that there were insufficient obnoxious chants against the Danish, and that is something which is always that's one of the reasons I always love international football. It's about football, and it's about the working class people who go along to support football, and they are rude and abrupt, and they hold no quarter, and they make chants and they boo things which they don't like. And I am all in favour of it. Since 1996, we have seen the kind of, I call it the Charltonification of football. So we've all the football clubs have become a bit like Charlton. And all the naughty stuff has been removed. But essentially, football was, back in the day, a time when people went along on a Saturday afternoon to let off steam and to show support for their area and for their people. And it was sometimes coarse, and it was certainly not the sort of thing you would hear at a Guardian editorial meeting. But I love it, and I really, really miss its passing, and it has passed. There was a bit of booing tonight at the Danish national anthem. I was booing from my sofa very loudly and unpleasantly because that is what football is about.
No, I'm with you.
It's not simply about the game. It's about the communities.
No, I'm with you. On the night of the German match, I said I had no problem with the booing. Everyone was absolutely horrified, wasn't worried at all about it tonight. But Rod Liddle, we knew you would give us the perfect, unvarnished take on the football, and you certainly did.